Brothers and sisters, we're here on the Koretoff Ranch. It's early March, and the miracle is happening. America, the almonds are blossoming. The almond blossoms first before peaches, plums, nectarine, apples, or pears, and that's why here in California is one of the few places where you have a temperate winter climate that almonds can grow. It's not that the almond tree is not hardy enough, but it's the early bloom that makes it so special and makes it confined to regions such as Spain and Italy, and the south of France, and of course here in the great Central Valley of California. These are some of the few places where almonds can grow because of the early bloom. All of the states now is in the drear of winter, but here in California, things are happening. The blossoms are out, the bees are doing their job. Steve, it's a privilege and an honor to be here again. And Steve, let me ask you this. For how many generations has your family been farming?
I'm the fourth generation on this property where we're standing, and my son will be the fifth generation.
The fifth generation. That is so magnificent, especially in these times where family farmers are definitely a diminishing species indeed. There are fewer and fewer family farmers. When I read these statistics, it seems that in 1935 there were 7 million family farmers, and now there's something like there are less than 2 million, and something like over 300 family farmers a week are leaving the land, and they're being replaced by giant corporations. So it's so heartening and refreshing indeed to see a family that is bucking the tide. That's so magnificent, and I'm so proud of that indeed. We use Steve's almonds, of course, for making our magnificent almond butter and our almond oil. We also use it in our confections, in our chocolates, and in many of the other products that we happen to manufacture. So Steve, let me ask you this. Just how many acres do you happen to have here?
Right now we have 500 acres certified organic. We have just under another 100 acres that's in transition. It'll be certified organic in 2 more years.
2 more years?
And we're hoping to expand a little bit just to continue to be able to supply our customers like yourself. We want to make sure that as the demand for organic increases, that we're there to meet those demands of the customers. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, because one of the reasons why family farmers like us survive are because people that are committed to family farms and to organic and sustainable farming practices. If it wasn't for you folks that purchased the almonds, it would be impossible for us to do what we do. And we've been successful over the years, but we never forget that our customers and the consumers are the ones that are the major part of that. So we really appreciate the support that we get from the consumers on organic and sustainably grown food.
That's a beautiful thought, and the reason for that is that our brothers and sisters appreciate your almonds so very much. They happen to love them. We've never had a complaint. We sell the almonds themselves in 1 pound bags, but the main pillar of our business happens to be our alive organic almond butter, and it's made from your almonds, Stephen. And people appreciate it and love it so much. Love it so much. Our sales are simply increasing by leaps and bounds. It's a very, very special product. We make many different nut butters: pistachio butter, walnut butter, hazelnut butter, but the almond butter is the pillar of it's what we're all about. We started out making almond butter maybe some 30 years ago, and it's still the main thing that we do at Living Tree Community Foods. So Steve, I wanted to ask you, on your 500 acres, about how many trees do you have?
There's roughly, depending on the varieties, we have anywhere from 100 to 110 10 trees per acre.
Yeah.
So we're looking at somewhere around well over 50,000 trees.
Well over 50,000 trees. And the work and devotion of pruning and fertilizing and all the other operations, this is full-time 365 days a week. That's 50,000 trees. That's a tremendous labor to care in them, to fertilize them, to look after them. That's very, very impressive indeed. And let me ask you this. Last year was a good year for almonds. Just roughly speaking, what was the harvest like last year? What did it come to?
Our harvest last year worked out to somewhere around 1,500 pounds per acre.
1,500 pounds per acre.
And that's, for us, that's a little bit down. Our average is a couple hundred pounds an acre more. It was definitely better than the previous crop season of 2015, but it's still lacking. Some of the problems that we're having are poor weather. Like this year, we had a lot of rain on bloom. One of the fortunate things that we have this year is the bees are wonderful this year.
I'm so glad.
We just wish they had better weather to work in. The bees really don't like to come out of the hive until the temperatures reach 55 degrees. And anybody who's been in California the last few weeks knows that we haven't had that. We've had very cold, very wet weather. Unfortunately, we had some frosts this week and last week. Our roofs were frosty this morning, and unfortunately, the bee activity drops when we have frost because the queens quit laying, and when the queens quit laying, the bees are much less active. So we're hoping the queens will get warmed up and the worker bees will get back at it.
Just as a forecast, how do you think, just off the top of your head, how do you forecast this year's harvest, just from what you've seen just now, as compared with last year?
I think we're probably close to on par with last year as far as we're looking at the bud sets and whether there's doubles or triple blooms together. And my personal opinion is we expect to get about the same crop as last year.
About the same crop as last year.
It might be just a touch under. It's a little too early to tell. Once we get the warm weather, we'll see how many of the blooms or the nuts will actually stick. Anything that hasn't been properly pollinated, as soon as we get our first hot temperatures, especially when we start getting to the 100 degrees, the tree will actually shed all of those nuts or all of those blossoms, because the tree doesn't want to try to support something that's not going to create an almond.
Okay. And as far as, so you think it might be more or less par with last year. What was the total poundage last year, just roughly speaking?
For our own farming operation last year, we were somewhere just a touch over 700,000 pounds of almonds.
700,000 pounds of organic almonds is what they harvested last year. That is so magnificent indeed. You can be really proud. And basically, it's a fifth generation small family farm producing 700,000 pounds of almonds. Magnificent. That tells you about American ingenuity and productivity. That's very inspiring indeed. And Steve, let me ask you this. What do you see as the main challenges that you're facing?
We see a lot more of perhaps a corporate mentality in the market, which is not necessarily the best environment for family farmers to work in. Sometimes the prices go up, the prices go down, and sometimes we're asked to do things that aren't reasonable. There's a certain amount of work and labor that we have to put into the farming operation every year, and although the price was very high 2 years ago, the prices of almonds, not just for organic but conventional, have come down significantly, and it's making our profit margin has shrunk dramatically. And so when people are asking us to continue to drop those prices, it's at the point to where growers are starting to wonder if it's actually financially feasible to continue farming organic.
Because organic is so much more labor intensive and so much more costly than conventional agriculture. So basically, you see the main challenge to you coming from agribusiness and corporations that are moving into the growing of almonds.
Yes.
Would that be more or less correct?
Yes.
I see. And that's a nationwide trend in almost anything. Family farmers are under more and more pressure, more and more competition, and so forth. So there has to be a mitigation of this. There has to be, but at least you are certainly holding your own, and that's inspiring, indeed. And then you were also talking about competition, about foreign competition too.
Yeah, and that's a very serious issue for us as well as the corporate environment grows within the organic sector. Some of the business practices of going more after the cheapest price rather than the best value reigns king, and that makes it very difficult. There's in the last 2 years we've had foreign almonds coming in from Europe, primarily Southern Europe, at prices significantly lower than ours. And what we're finding out now is that some of our customers have started to purchase foreign almonds rather than the California almonds, and so the market's diminishing, and it's pushing our prices down to where we're having to start to think twice about the financial feasibility of continuing on this path that we're on. We're committed to organic, and we've had a huge amount of investment put into that. We've been doing it for years, but some of the growers that we talk to are starting to scratch their head and say, is the extra work, the extra expense, is it really worth it when we have such a hard time competing with foreign competition?
And the other thing too is that the standards, the organic standards here in California are the highest in the world. Steve and his ranch have been certified by CCOF, which is the oldest and most reputable organic certifier. Whereas a lot of these foreign competitors who are coming here from Spain, from Sicily, and from Italy, who knows what standards they are held to or where they happen to be coming from. A lot of them just materialize magically just out of nowhere, and suddenly they're producing so-called organic almonds. Whereas the very, very best, the highest quality, the highest taste, the highest flavor are produced right here in California and nowhere else. So that's good. Then the other question we want to ask you, we've just gotten through 5 years of a severe drought. What are your forecasts right now? Where does the water come from to irrigate these 50,000 trees or so? If you'd like to tell us a little about that.
Yeah, the majority of the water for the ranches, especially the ranch that we're on right now, comes from the Sierra Nevadas. It comes from Pine Flat Reservoir, which is off of the Kings River.
Okay.
And in a normal year, we'd receive at least 80% of our water supply would come through the canal system from the Sierra Nevadas. Unfortunately, the last 5 years that hasn't been the case, and not last year, but the year before, probably 80% plus of our water actually came from wells.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked last year about we had some wells that actually went dry, and at great expense we had to drill some new wells. And this ranch is one of those ranches that we had to do that on. We expect to get our full allotment of water this year, which is wonderful news.
How wonderful. I'm so glad for you. I truly am. I truly am. So so brothers and sisters, that's something to think in mind, to keep in mind that in a normal year, most of the water for these almonds comes from melting snowbanks in the high Sierras. What can be more pristine, more filled with life forces than that? So, Steve, if you could tell us a bit more about some of the other challenges that you face, if you could tell us, and also about how you bring fertility to orchards and protect them from bugs and pests and that sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah. One of the main sources for nutrients that we have here in the orchard is compost and composted dairy manure.
Composted dairy manure.
We also, all of the brush and the prunings from these trees is actually, we'll pile it up in the middle of the rows, and there's a big machine that comes in and grinds it up almost like sawdust. And so we have that organic material to help hold some of the nutrients in the root zone, and also it gives something for the organisms in the soil and the fungi. They need something natural. They need organic material. So through that compost and through that that ground up wood waste, that really helps our soil profiles. One of the things that we've noticed in the last few years is our earthworm activity. I'm going to be 48 years old this year, and so I've grown up in almond orchards my whole life. And one of the things that we noticed after a few years of being organic is coming in after a rain, and we'll look down at the ground and we can see all the worm castings where the worms have come up. And I don't recall that when I was a kid when we're farming conventional. So we know that our soil is incredibly healthy. The earthworms and the microorganisms and everything, our soil is alive again. And that's one of the biggest benefits, because the healthier the soil is, the healthier the tree is. And by working with nature rather than opposed to it, we can actually keep a balance in the orchard where we don't really have to use a lot of materials and things like that to combat insects and different things. We have beneficial insects here that aren't being sprayed with chemicals, and so the beneficials and the predator insects keep the pest insects in check naturally.
Beneficial, that's a wonderful thing. And I want to say, I'm so heartened that the basis of what you're doing here is to regenerate the soil, to enliven the soil, to fill it with as much organic matter as possible. And that's really what it's all about, because that's the essence of sustainability. That's really where it's all about. So I'm very, very pleased to hear that indeed. So basically, we're looking forward to another harvest of around, something comparable to the last harvest of 700,000 pounds of almonds, and that will be a magnificent contribution to brothers and sisters everywhere. Of all nuts, no nut is as high in its quality of protein as the almond, and also delicious flavor and taste. And more people are discovering that and making that discovery thanks to you and your wonderful family, Steve. It is a privilege and honor to be out there at this historic occasion, and the fact that the almonds here, we have rows and rows of blossoms, and it tells you that in this America, with all its trials, challenges, and tribulations, there is so much hope, there is so much aliveness at the grassroots. It's a privilege and honor, Steve. Thank you so very much indeed.
Yeah, and we thank you too. And we just want to remind everybody out there that California almonds is the only source of true sweet, bitter-free almonds. You can't get a truly sweet, bitter-free almond from anywhere else in the world other than here in California. And we're happy to be the suppliers to you and your company, as well as all of your customers and all of the consumers. It's a real honor for us to grow the food for people that are so committed to the organic way of life and the sustainable growing practices.
Well, wonderful, Stephen. You and your family are making a magnificent contribution, and it's a privilege indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you.